Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. So I am going to be doing a video right now on the dangers, the actual, and these are legitimate dangers, of why changing things in Lord of the Rings can actually affect society in very bad ways. Well, we'll begin with the obvious. Amazon, for those of you who are not aware, are doing a adaptation to the Second Age of Middle-earth. They had a contract with the Tolkien estate while Christopher Tolkien was alive, and they said that you cannot change the lore in any shape, way, or form. That there are certain things that are needed and established that you are not allowed to change. Then when Christopher Tolkien died, his daughter took over, and she is not like her father or grandfather. She is all for the wokeness and whatnot, it seems. And so she took away those stipulations from Amazon and said you get free reign. Well, with what they are doing with the free reign is they're adding elements into Middle-earth that never existed in Middle-earth, that do not exist in Middle-earth at all, nor should they exist in Middle-earth. Middle-earth has already been established. Middle-earth already exists. To change something is not respecting the world and the work of j.r.r. Tolkien, as Amazon claims that they want to do. They want to pay homage to Tolkien and his work, and also, but then they also went back and said, we want to write the story that Tolkien never did. Well, now you're claiming to be better than Tolkien while trying to respect his work. And these things are dangerous because everybody's saying, well, you can always go back to or his published works are unblemished and untouched, and they always will be. That's not a certainty. You see, I'm actually old enough to remember a time in my 20s when they started editing books that have existed for decades, like Huck Finn. They took out the word, or the N-word, and put in, I believe, slave, or some other word that was not as derogatory. They changed a published work for PC reasons. So saying that Tolkien's works are always going to be as they are, and this adaptation isn't going to change that, that is not a certainty. And I do believe that people need to pay attention to this stuff. You want to destroy history and rewrite history, well, you're now changing literary history. They did that with Huck Finn and a few other books that involved using the N-word, which was historically accurate for those books, which were accurate terms that were used commonly back then. Having these things taken out of books is not good because it is showing, or it is not allowing people to realize these terms existed and they were not used right. They were not used properly. And that these words existed and should not be used. But instead they would rather change things so we do not learn from our history and the mistakes of our history. And people are saying, and I answered the OneRing.net with one of their things, and a person's like, why are you mad, bro? And in response to another person, I said, he and many others are, because we find and value Tolkien's works as sacred. And because of our passion, we're labeled with insults and ists and phobes by those who can't put up a decent argument. One of them being OneRing.net. You have labeled people ists and phobes, racists and transphobes. For what? Because we value the works of Tolkien? Because we want his works respected by those who are saying that or claim to respect them, but really don't? And because we call this out, we are suddenly racist and sexist and whatnot. And this person, I'm not going to say who they are, and Tolkien's work will remain undiminished by one adaptation. Wrong! Again, look at the Tales of Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer. A published work was changed because people were outraged by the N-word being used in that book. But yet, if you look at rap and R&B rap and whatnot, they use the N-word all the time with no consequence. And whether it ends up being good or bad, to get upset over this is just childish. No, it isn't. People have a right to voice their dissent and their disgust and their disappointment with something that they hold sacred and something that they do not want to see tarnished. And I actually responded back, or maybe entertainment can go back to being for everyone and not just for the woke crowd. Well, yeah, that's what they are doing. They're checking off woke boxes for identity politics in this Amazon venture with the whole black dwarf queen that doesn't have a beard because some weird reason, and the black elf, which neither existed in Tolkien's time or in his published works. They just didn't exist. And that's not a problem. That shouldn't be a problem. And anybody who sees it as a problem are very shallow. And I do believe that they need to look beyond skin color, because if that is all that matters to them, then they are very regressive and very ignorant in the way they choose to live. And this person says, you see, that's where I think you are wrong. You are assigning a political agenda when what I see is a legitimate attempt to actually make Middle Earth, for the very first time, actually for everyone. And that's another problem. Again, he said that I made it about a political agenda. And I told him, no, I have no agenda. And Tolkien's Middle Earth is for everyone. Maybe people need to stop being so shallow and making everything about skin color. And if they did, they wouldn't be whining like the children they are. And yes, I do refer to these people who are whining about skin color as children. I grew up, me, a white male, a person who is white. I grew up under the lessons of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Judge not by the color of one's skin, but by the content of one's character. And if these people are constantly worried about skin color all the time, well, then I do believe that their content of character is lacking. And another person who follows me also answered, bro, this story is for everyone because it explores universal themes that all humans can relate to. Indeed. You reducing a human being to their gender or skin color is morally repugnant. Now, this person has yet to respond to us, and I doubt he will because he has been called out for his actual racism. And the thing is, OneRing.net is also a problem because they think that they are morally superior. Now, there was a time, because let me get to it, where, let's see here, because they actually did post this a while back, months ago, and they got roasted for it, especially when they said that, or when they actually went after a black person for standing against their tokenist and racist ways. But yeah, let's see here. Okay, so here's another tweet. Like I said, they had posted this months ago and ended up erasing it, and yet they brought it back. Homophobia, racism, and misogyny have no place in Lord of the Rings fandom. 20 years ago, they claimed Ian McKellen's gay Gandalf would ruin Tolkien's Catholic legacy. Sounded stupid then and still does same types of people making ignorant comments now get a swift block and ban. Well, here's the thing, OneRing.net. You have yet to provide proof. Months ago and even now, you have yet to provide proof that those claims ever happened. Nobody claimed. And if a small fraction of people did, that's their ignorance. That gay Gandalf would ruin Tolkien's Catholic legacy. Also, there was no gay Gandalf. Gandalf was not intimate or sexually involved or desired anyone in The Lord of the Rings. He was played by a gay actor, sure, but Gandalf was not gay. Homophobia, racism, and misogyny have no place in any fandom. But for you to claim that anybody who disagrees with identity politics are homophobia, racist, and misogynist, that's just showing how ignorant you are. People continue to gatekeep. People continue to move the goalpost to say that when they are proven wrong, well, you're just a racist and a istophobe and whatnot and all that stuff. When we make legitimate concerns verbal and outspoken and whatnot. When we fire back at the people who perceive us as toxic, we are not being bigoted. We are using facts and we are bringing what we know to the table and what we know as factual, and we are bringing the receipts to back it up. However, people like OneRing.net, the producers or the people responsible for the Rings of Power, how they're calling us trolls in articles, how they're saying that we're trolls because we know more about Middle-earth and about the world that Tolkien built better than they do. When the number one Tolkien scholar in the world walks away from the project, we know that that is a red flag. And they went to change lore, like this forbidden love between this black elf and this character who is obscure. Well, here's the thing. There were only 3 forbidden relationships in Middle-earth. That's another thing that The Hobbit actually violated, the Hobbit movies, with Keely and Tauriel. They, a character who never existed, Tauriel, but they needed a love story. The thing is, Arwen and Aragorn, 1. Beren and Luthien, 2. And Tildar and Tuor, 3. Those are the 3 noted, forbidden, and historically accurate in Middle-earth relationships that were of different races that were not allowed because of the times of when they took place. Arwen and Aragorn, while Aragorn lived longer than most humans, he was not everlasting as an elf is, where Arwen gave up her immortality. And otherwise she would live on long after he died. Elves are immortal. And Luthien did the same thing. As for the other one, Nildar and Tuor, I'm not aware of their relationship, but I can easily research it. But for this new black elf, which doesn't exist in Middle-earth, nor does the black dwarf queen with no beard, they never existed, they're changing the lore. And they're changing established history. But because they altered the contract, this stuff is now allowed. And therefore, it is absolute proof that Amazon does not care about honoring Tolkien's work. As I said in my video about the trailer, or this teaser, It looks nothing like Tolkien's work except for the scenery. The scenery looks like Middle-earth, but nothing else. Galadriel wasn't a commander of the Northern armies. And Elrond never looked like Doogie Howser MD. And this black dwarf queen Disa never existed. There was a dwarven queen or princess named Dis. Now, if they're claiming that this is the same character, well, they didn't get her right. It's a miscast. People need to learn to look beyond skin color, race, sexuality, and all of that nonsense, because it does not matter. Tolkien's world was not sexual, racial, based on any sort of racial stereotypes. None of that. It was fantasy, with stories and lessons that all people of every race, gender, creed, whatever, could look at and say, this is entertaining and this is important. But for people to constantly come at us and say that we know nothing and that we are not real fans and that we are toxic and that Tolkien's works will live on, when there is proof that if a work is too not PC, they will seek to change it. Which there are people complaining that Tolkien is an anti-Semite and that Tolkien is racist. Well, they're going to seek to change his publications now. Thankfully, I have The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit written out, so my copies will never be altered. But there is a chance that the publications will be altered now because they're not politically correct. And that is a real danger, folks, because you are now changing published history. You are changing the works of the greatest author of the 20th century, and that, to me, is very dangerous and very, very wrong. Anyway, folks, that is going to be the video. You all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think of anything that you have heard in this video? Do you think that I am indeed making a point? Or do you believe that the world should change? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below, folks. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.